Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. A phrase you often hear is, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree. Now, you may not be aware of this, but that phrase actually originated back in 1770 with John Wesley, the great revivalist, and it was in connection with his dispute with George Whitefield, the other great revivalist of the day, because there were certain issues that they could not agree on. However, what they were agreed on was that the gospel of Jesus Christ was the most amazing message, that everybody needed to hear it, and there was a responsibility to spread the gospel around the world. And so it was actually a memorial sermon upon the death of George Whitefield when John Wesley penned those famous words that have been repeated millions of times since. Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree. And I'll be honest with you, I've used that phrase many times. You know, sometimes people start off on something. We all have our hobby horses, our pet peeves, the things that we like to go on about, that we sometimes treat as if they're the most important thing in the world when they're not. And on a number of occasions, I've experienced it where people are banging on and on about something where I disagree with them profoundly. But actually, there's something more important that we do agree on and that we can work together on. And at one time in my life, I would have just kept quiet and said nothing and hoped the subject didn't come up again. And I always found that turned out to be a bad policy, that there was a dishonesty involved in that by my silence when somebody was talking on a subject, I was actually implying that I was agreeing with them. And they then thought it was acceptable to keep spreading that opinion, maybe in a public setting where I was sat beside them and where it caused embarrassment. So I learned a lesson from that. I learned that I had to be braver and to risk falling out with somebody over something that wasn't that important, but to try to express my disagreement in a way that we could still cooperate on the important things. And so I learned to say, whenever people began to talk about something that I disagreed with, but that was not the main issue that we were called by God to work upon, I've learned to say to them, hang on a minute. Probably if you keep talking about that, and if I keep talking about that, we are going to disagree. And you know what? It would be better if we just agree to disagree, and let's talk about the things the Lord really wants us to work together on. Now, of course, I'm not talking about essential things. I'm not talking about things that are essential to the Christian faith. I'm not talking about things that are absolutely contradictory to following Jesus and are a dreadful negation of our beliefs and our values. But on things that are not the most important issue, on minor issues, I've learned to say, hang on a minute, let's agree to disagree. But now let's talk about the thing that we really want to work together on. I wish I could sit here and say to you that was always a successful way to approach the matter. It hasn't always been successful. Sometimes there have been people who have fallen out with me over the minor issues. However, I have found many who can accept the fact that we can agree to disagree, and then we can move on with the things with which we are in agreement. I thank God that the gospel is not something that demands us all to look and act and think exactly the same. But the gospel is something so unifying, something wonderful, something life-changing, that we can even work with the people whom we might disagree with on other issues to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. The Apostle Paul said this, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but it is the power of God unto salvation for all who believe. And I believe that all includes those that I might disagree with on some other issues. I would encourage you today, don't just look for people that are going to agree with you on everything. And don't just surround yourselves with yes men and yes women who always tell you what you want to hear. But learn how to agree to disagree and yet still to work together in unity to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. May God bless you and help you as you walk in his unity today. And please join us again next time for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.